Welcome to the CATS Ireland Brain Drain General Skills module. This will take approximately 15 to 20 minutes to complete. Hi, my name is Joe, and like most of you viewing this, I'm all too familiar with trying to juggle multiple commitments while at the same time keeping things afloat on both a professional and personal level. Some of these thoughts, tips and techniques help, and they may help you too. We hope you enjoy it. So, first off, let's cut to the chase. Everyone is busy these days. Well, almost everyone. Good time management is not something that you can plan and work to. Good time management is a byproduct of a lifestyle choice. Sort of like getting very fit is a byproduct of constantly training for and running marathons. It is a choice, and you'll hear that word a lot in this short module. A choice shows that you're in control of the situation, and even though you might not think of yourself at the time, but you are. And the flip side of choice is responsibility. Responsibility for your actions and the outcomes of your choices. Once you can reconcile this, the rest becomes pretty easy-ish. There are some choices which you could take, but the negative consequences mean you don't take them. So let me give you an example. You could sleep in instead of making your 9 a.m. appointment. At some stage, you'll ponder the pros and cons and then perhaps decide to sleep on or get up, grumble, and go out to the meeting. Shower and breakfast optional. We make these choices all the time. The lifestyle choice that results in good time management is simply being more mindful and aware of these as they happen. So we're going to focus on the concepts and mentality required to achieve this in daily practice. You're going to get some thoughts, tips, and techniques that you can use straight away afterwards if you want to. Again, ignoring this module is also a choice. Ready? Great, let's go. At its very base level, time is when stuff happens. But there are two types of time, clock time and real time. Clock time is 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 24 hours. You get the idea. When you're waiting for somebody, you can see clock time move very slowly. Now real time, this is where it gets interesting. It's flexible and based on perception and engagement. For example, dinner with the in-laws might seem a lot longer than it actually is. On the flip side, your 2-week vacation seems like it's gone in 20 minutes. It's our perception of time that's the key. This is why. And now some news for you. Time management gadgets and systems don't work on their own. They manage clock time, not real time. Your watch will keep on doing its job of measuring clock time. You can only ever perceive time through your own experiences. So, why does that matter? Well, there are only 3 ways to spend time. Thoughts, conversations, and actions. Everything you do is one of these. You also only have 24 hours in the day, so no wonder you can't get everything done, yeah? These 24 hours are all you have. Incidentally, they're also the same 24 hours each day that Einstein, Newton, Elvis, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian have. Time management doesn't mean doing more, it means doing the right things for you with your time. In essence, it means choosing to use your time wisely. But before we go there, what about not using your time wisely? What can hinder you? Distractions. Especially when we're doing tasks which don't engage us, be it filing your tax returns or doing the laundry. When you're doing a task that you don't perceive as meaningful for you or one which you dislike, you're more likely to willingly follow distraction or procrastinate. So what else? Not prioritizing. Yep, you knew it was going to go here, didn't you? Ultimately, as you have only 24 hours of time, you'll need to prioritize what to do, what to delegate if you can, and be content with the outcomes, even if it's not exactly the way you would have done it yourself. And also, what items you need to drop. Unimportant details can and will drag you down. And when you're trying to prioritize, you have to be very careful also of lists, because sometimes managing the list becomes a task, not the task itself. That also doesn't help your own feeling of success or achievement. Another hindrance is not consistently getting enough sleep. Yep, I'm serious. Running a sleep deficit is one surefire way to shoot yourself in the foot when you're trying to make any sort of change or to organize your life the way you would like. You need your sleep. The key word here is consistently. There will be times when it will be nearly impossible to get the amount of hours your body requires. Sometimes your commitments will need to take priority over rest. The only point to bear in mind here is that once you do have a space, you choose to prioritize your own rest. This is especially important if others are relying on you or have learned to rely on you. In which case, if there are too many things in your schedule, you're possibly saying yes too much. Period. You may not be aware of the choices that you're making or perhaps what is driving them. Often by the time someone realizes that they're way in too deep. This can be a tricky one to get your head around because firstly, your instincts will try to immediately justify your choices that may have led you to this situation. Perhaps you needed extra money, so you worked 2 jobs and now still do. Perhaps you volunteered at your kid's school and now you're still doing it even every weekend, even though your kids have now left for college. If you're someone who's a doer and who gets things done, others will gravitate towards you to get you to help solve their problems. It happens. There are ways around this without damaging any relationships you've built up over time, but that cannot be really contained in this short module. That is a very important skill that takes practice and is deserving of focus on its own. Needless to say, for now, just be aware of saying yes, and also be aware when you're feeling under stress or when you feel energized. And try as well to be aware of the implied yes from people who demand your time. It's your right to say no, especially if the tasks that you've been charged with don't energize you or fill you with dread. How you perceive a task, remember, time is perception, is based on how you feel about the task you're doing and how much time you have allocated to it. Your perception can also be affected by the time of day you're doing it. People feel more or less energized throughout the day. Biologically, this is run by our circadian rhythms. If you don't know yours, it's pretty easy to identify. A lot of people will classify themselves as a morning person or a night owl. Now that's pretty easy to hear when you're viewing a video online, but in reality, you must be at your job for certain hours. You need to be up for several hours, maybe before and after, just to keep the rest of your daily life afloat. If you've been conditioned to doing that for years, by now you may not really remember easily what way you naturally operate. Also, if you work with colleagues, like most of us, very quickly there will be a collective good and bad time of the day when you'll all naturally try and plan things or where you'll grab your downtime based on an outside schedule. And this may also trick your body into craving rest or being energized at those times outside work. A simple internet search will give you lots of myths and facts on circadian rhythms, so I'm not going to waste your time digging into it here. What I am going to do is give you 2 quick thought experiments that you can use now to check yourself how you think your natural rhythm works. The first one is, if each day you have to do a really unpleasant, energetic task that you cannot avoid, which might say take an hour or so, if you could choose what time of day to do it, what time would that be? Now, you might say, I'll do it first thing in the morning, get it over with, which will make logical sense. And if you're naturally a morning person and you have more energy at that point of the day, that makes practical sense. But if you're naturally your best at night or in the evening, you'll probably just end up making a hash of it most of the time. So be truthful with yourself. There's no one judging you except you. The second thought experiment is, when you have a day off or when you're on holiday, what type of day do you prefer? To help this, just think back through some time off you've had in the past or picture any pleasant day you've had before. What time of the day is it? What were you doing? It doesn't come to you straight away. Try to be mindful and aware of it in the coming days and note when you feel more or less full of energy than normal. And I understand that may be difficult if you have busy timings during the day when you don't have a choice in the matter. Which brings us to a rather overlooked perception-based trap, mistaking busy for important. They're not the same. Busyness is perception, importance is value. For example, an office worker moving purposely from A to B with a piece of paper to a colleague, possibly instead of emailing it, looks important and busy. A new mum catching a nap on a sofa while a 3-year-old sleeps is important and not busy at that moment until baby wakes. Which one is using the time best? We've learned behaviour as adults not to value downtime or to feel the need to look useful or busy. This can come from the top, where your boss may feel they need to be seen to race from task to task in order to motivate and encourage you, perhaps to work as hard as they seem to be. Or maybe it comes from your colleagues. Or perhaps your upbringing held this in high esteem and that's the way you naturally gravitate. For now, the only thing to do is to be aware of it. Sometimes it certainly does give everyone a little power to be able to make somebody else wait or tell a colleague or client that you're too busy. If you find yourself falling into this trap, just be aware. Nothing more, nothing less. Sometimes it can be a great way to postpone the inevitable from a boss who eats up your time if you have to do your job with increased demands that cause you to stay late. On that point, allowing people to take your time away from you unproductively is a problem. This can include loved ones, clients, and colleagues. Allow is an important word because the only person who can take your time away from you is you. This may be hard to change, but it is possible and ultimately it is a choice. If, for example, you have a boss who works 24/7 and expects you to do likewise, do you condone and perhaps reciprocate the behaviour? If so, is it your choice and it's part of a plan to get to the next stage of the ladder? If so, great. What does the next stage look like to you from where you are? Is it more of the same? Are you happy with it? If you are, then you're one of those fortunate people who's getting paid to do what you love, which is brilliant. You may then already have reconciled the sacrifices you may have to make or will need to make in order to succeed. If you are on that path, just try to remember that maybe the others you deal with may be on a different path. If you aren't doing a lot as part of a longer-term goal, then perhaps it's time to reevaluate your goals. Again, making a significant change is something important that deserves its own focus, so we're not going to go into it here. But let's just say if you've only been stopped in your tracks by this thought and have for the first time recognized in a while that you might need to change where you're going, consider this enough done for the moment. Let it marinate in your subconscious for a little while first. So, how do you start to use your time wisely? Well, in order of general importance, though you will need to reprioritize these at times, get enough sleep. Seriously, it's the underpinning of everything. Try not to run a sleep deficit if at all possible. Know your circadian rhythm, so generally know when you get your best and worst throughout the day. Prioritize, set goals, and try and give tasks adequate preparation time. To do this successfully in today's world, it will only work for you if you take personal responsibility. If you choose to do one thing over another, then don't complain if something does or doesn't happen. If you decide to spend most of the afternoon on Facebook as opposed to completing the assignment that's due at 5 p.m, and then you start panicking at 4 p.m, the only person you need to look to is you. Rather, however, than complaining or beating yourself up over it, own it. It may not have been a brilliant article you read after lunch that hooked you in, nor the fact that your friends all seemed to be online too and you wanted to spend the virtual afternoon with them. It was your choice, unconscious or not, which led you to the situation. Try not to look for blame. The assignment might have been at short notice, or for ways out of it. Simply own it and accept it. This is getting your head in the right place. Once it's there, it allows you to take stock and work out your next steps, logically and sensibly. In the example just given, the next step may be to give you a chance to approach a supervisor or tutor before the deadline and just seek and get an extension, or maybe postpone for a day. Again, if you get that extension, your choice then resets as to whether you spend the time on the task or do something else. The key really is personal responsibility. No more, no less. When you hear words to describe people such as driven, determined, or mindful, they are some of the described benefits of taking personal responsibility. You may also hear other words describing them as having it easy or being lucky. The first words are usually spoken by those who understand the nature of success and what has to be done and often needs to take place in order to achieve something. And the last set of words are usually those who only see the outcomes and who may not want to recognize what have gone into it for somebody. Many sometimes that shines a light on themselves. Once your head is in the right place, in that you prioritize and take ownership of your time, then you can start to work with some of the tools and techniques that exist for time management. And in general, that would be choosing a scheduling system and setting rules for communications, like emails, phone calls, meetings, etc. And to give yourself set times each day to work on these tasks, because they eat up your time a lot. Use the technology available to its fullest. I'm not going to go in and recommend this system versus that system because IT systems and methods change, and today's great technique may be replaced by tomorrow. The other thing to do is use whatever technology you have at your disposal to its fullest. How? Well, the main thing is set time to learn it. For example, if you use Gmail or Outlook or Apple Mail for calendaring or email, have you checked out their productivity solutions? Nearly all the main drivers in technology over the last number of years have been in automating routine tasks and trying to make users more efficient. The best place to start getting on board with this is to search the help function of your own calendaring system. If you don't have one and you want to try and pick one, just ask Google. The results may change from year to year, but overall they'll all be trying to achieve the same tasks. Also remember that you may not work the best with an electronic system. If your preference is, and your work allows it, that a pen and paper system, that's great. Pen and paper diaries have sustained humanity for decades. The important thing is to pick one and work with it. Be prepared to amend your system and routine until it fits your current lifestyle. If the best technology that you can find useful to help you keep track of everything is pen and paper, that's cool. Use it and own it. With us so far? Great. Now, what do you do from here? Here are the first steps. Take 50 minutes today or tomorrow, but in the next 24 hours, and think, what eats up my time? And do I want to change it at this stage? For example, if you spend 3 hours a night watching TV and you can't live without it, own your choice. That will minimize the time you may have for other things, but if you find you need those 3 hours each night as it de-stresses you after a day of running about, then perhaps it's time to look at why this is happening in the first place, not the TV therapy you need each evening. Which might lead you to ask, am I setting goals correctly? If you write down what you've been doing over the past week, in general, try and break into a few key activities per day if it suits you, and then list the ones which you find are important. If you find a lot of them are important or everything is important, go through them one by one and write out what would happen if you didn't do that particular item. This gives you your current course and speed. So ask yourself, do you want to be writing the same list in a year's time or 5 years' time? What do you expect to have changed between now and then? If you're not happy with what you're seeing develop, you need to change either your course or your speed. If you know where you want to be going and you discover that you are, for whatever reason, not going there, you need to change course. Likewise, if you realize that you're heading where you want to, but you may not have actually pictured it yet, at least slow down and buy yourself the time to reflect and take stock. It's okay not to have a set plan in mind, but do try and buy yourself the time to take it easy and reflect on things. It's only in those times that you carve out for yourself that you'll be able to properly reevaluate the direction that you want to go in, and then eventually make a start in planning how to get there. The main thing is to try and invest time and energy in the underlying factors, not the symptoms. And just a quick note on this exercise. If you find that trying to do it is making you feel depressed, or you get a feeling of dread as you write more and more, stop. Leave it for a few days and then try and come back to it again. You have to be ready to make a change, and you may not be in the right headspace to do so now. Give yourself time and come back to this course again in a few weeks. Set up a reminder on your phone or write it in your diary, but for now, complete the last few minutes of this module so you know what comes next, and that may help your subconscious come up with a few answers for you when you're ready to do it again. Okay? The next steps, once you've done this exercise, is to buy yourself the time to do something. If you're happy with where things are going in your life, that time can be spent each day doing more things you enjoy. If you aren't or aren't sure, you can use the time to get yourself some thinking space. Here's how you can wrestle back some time each day. First, try and keep a log of how you spend your time. List regular tasks like daily, weekly, monthly, or any on-demand tasks, and break these regular tasks into what we like to call toddler and adult tasks. An adult task is something big and meaty that you'd be quite right to slot out an entire morning for, or at least an hour or two of your time to tackle. You see them coming, you stare them in the eye, you can negotiate with them. They're usually challenging or time-consuming, and ideally you need to do them in a single sitting. Toddler tasks are small, they might not take up too much time, and they're usually things that you can completely and relatively do easily. But they may interrupt your daily flow. To get in the way if you want to tackle them while you're working on it. You may be aware of an adult task in the back of your mind that's politely coughing to get your attention. Take a look at what you wrote and see how much of each of your day is spent on either adult or toddler tasks. This is not a precise science, and to some people, depending on their skill level or interest, they may slot the same activity into a different area than you. That's okay. It's you planning how to use your time better, not theirs. So first of all, decide right away to use your email or voicemail inbox as an inbox. After each email or call, you decide straight away to either act on it, flag it for later, or discard or ignore it. The amount of time spent in correspondence in a daily working life is tremendous. It can build up and it breeds. As a rule of thumb I try to follow is, if the item can be done in under 1 minute relatively easily, do it then. Letting them stack up creates a small pile of toddler tasks. So how do you deal with these little toddler tasks? Well, we define a toddler task as a simple activity that can be performed with relative ease by you given adequate time. This only defines how you perceive the activity. It does not denote importance. Some can be vitally important, others unimportant or irrelevant. The more of them that build up, however, the less likely you are to spot the few which require urgent attention. Flagged emails, for example, are usually our toddler tasks. Unimportant ones usually only require some acknowledgement or receipt, where important ones may require a more thought through or timely response. The trick to handling these is to set aside some time each day to catch up on these toddler tasks. As each small thing comes in, each day flag it on paper or in your head to be done at the time of the day you're dedicated to it. If you work closely with others, where possible, let them know, in as much as you can, this is how you'll manage your correspondence, so they know in advance not to chase you for a response. And likewise, they know to use a more appropriate manner to get your attention if something is urgent in the meantime. And speaking of urgency, I bet you've seen this grid before, or something like it. Why is it popular? Well, possibly because it works, but it really only works if you want it to. So on the left, you see you have the urgency of the task gets more urgent near the top. On the bottom, we have the importance, getting more important the further right it goes. This gives us 4 boxes. The first, in the bottom left, low urgency, low importance. Basically, if you come across something which you classify in your head as fitting in here, you do that, simply nothing. You may want to note what it contained or related to, but frankly, don't bother your time with it. The box above is low importance, but very urgent. You usually ignore or act if you can. There may be an importance and urgency to a task for a colleague or a loved one, but it's up to you if you decide to act on it. For example, your child has forgotten about their school project that's due in the morning. Do you stop what you're doing that evening, which may be very important to you, to help them with it, which is important to them right now, but ultimately not important in and of itself? Deciding to help here really boils down to whether you personally value the relationship with the person needing the help over the task itself. For the record, most parents would drop what they were doing and help build the kid's project in time for the next morning, of course. But what if that person is a boss or a tutor or a client or a colleague who keeps putting requests on your time? Where do you decide to draw the line here is important. The top right, that's really best can do. It's already very urgent and already very important. Unless you're a firefighter or another member of the emergency response services by profession, having too many things here really does boil down to bad planning and constantly living in emergency mode. In general, items in here should be seen as I'll do my best. You may have been able to do a better job with more knowledge, but at this point of entry, you will need to settle for whatever you can achieve. If the person who places you in the situation may be you or maybe somebody else, regardless of how organized you are, you're always going to find times when everything seems to fall into this category. The best place to try and operate, however, is the last one. This is low urgency, but very important. Even the members of the emergency services professions I referred to a moment ago try and operate here. When they can, they drill, practice, and maintain their continued professional development during the likely off-peak times and in shift rotations, so that when they are asked to respond, they're as prepared as possible for the times when they do need to get there fast. The same applies for us. If there are tasks in your daily, weekly, or monthly workload which, for whatever reason, all squeeze together at a critical time on a regular basis, what parts of this can you prepare for when you're less busy, so to allow yourself more time when the crunch comes at the end of the cycle? Now, back to personal responsibility and getting your head in the right space again. Who decides what activities and tasks go where? Well, you do. And what if you get it wrong? Well, here's some news for you. You will get it wrong. You might get it wrong a lot. What then? Own it. Plan your response. Who's it for, and by extension, who you're letting down if you didn't do it or you miscategorize it and act accordingly? And what are the implications of the action or inaction? The main thing is to learn from your mistakes and keep trying. It'll get easier each time you do it. And lastly, remember, despite your best efforts, There will be days when everything that can go wrong will go wrong. It happens. All we can really do is endure, learn and amend for the future, but most of all, don't give up. Try and start again the next day and reset. It will get easier the more you do it. I hope you found this short talk useful. If you have, please share and recommend it to your friends and colleagues. And thank you for taking the time to take this brain drain module.